Have you ever heard the saying, Joey, that you play down to the level of competition?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we see it all the time in our favorite sports teams. They're playing somebody that they should just be crushing, but yet they end up barely winning or sometimes losing those games as they should be winning because they play down to the competition. But also the opposite is true, right? Whenever we get in competitive environments, it can actually increase ours. I got two different stories. I want to bring this because I think today's podcast, as we bring back a guest, Kyle Stanley, Fearless Kyle. He's an expert in the short-term rental space, somebody that we had on almost 2 years ago, who has gone from when he had about 25 to 30 units to now almost 70 units under management. He talked a little bit about the fact that we are in a much more competitive environment in the short-term rental space. Today in 2020, there's 3 times the listings that there were just 2 years ago. And some people who are just now getting into that space are finding it tough to make money and are wondering, can I make money? So Joe, I got 2 different things for you. One, I want to point out the obvious, and this is something that people miss. Competition actually not only raises your game, but also raises your opportunity. Do you believe that?
Oh yeah, totally.
Really? I would have thought you would have said no. Competition reduces opportunity. That's the mistake I made.
No.
I was introing.
No, what it does is it requires you to get really clear on what the market is asking for. And I think that's one of the things that Kyle brought out of this interview is it's caused him to stop and to think about what those things have to be. And it's made him 5X certain areas of his business. That is how you improve.
Well, here's I want to point this out. And most people may initially balk at, well, you just gave the solution. But here's the thing. When my wife was a dentist, there was a dental office that started about 5 or 6 years after she built it. A dental office started to be built about half a mile from her. There was not one for 3 miles near her. She was the one random office off to the side that nobody else had built around. But about 5, 6 years in, somebody starts to build like half a mile from her, and she got super nervous. And I said, that is the best thing that's ever happened to your business. And she was like, what? No, what are you talking about? Now people that used to drive by and see my office are going to drive by and stop at that one instead. Russ, how can you say that that's going to enhance our business? Why would I say that to her, you think, Stallion?
Well, because it's just like, why is, Walgreens right across the street from Rite Aid? And all of a sudden you start getting the leftovers, if you will, like somebody's going to look for a dentist and they see one, they say, oh, maybe this is the one I was looking for. And they're really meant to go see the other one. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, I mean, that's possibly or partially true, right? I'm sure that happens. But here's the thing. It brings awareness to the business. It brings awareness to the situation. The fact that there's 800 listings now in Birmingham, and only 2 years ago, there was only like 250. You know what happens with that is that there's a lot more people who now are traveling with that many more listings that are looking for a short-term rental as compared to a hotel. How many bedrooms, by the way, I don't even know this number. How many bedrooms do you think, hotel bedrooms, are there in the city of Birmingham?
I have no clue.
Do you think it's less than 850 if that's how many short-term rental units we have?
No, definitely more.
How many more? 5,000?
Something like
10,000?
Yeah. I have no idea.
It's got to be a big number. It is 850 is a small fraction of the number of rooms in the hotel business industry, right? So what if the hotel industry are the ones that are really taking it on the chin right now, right? And I think that when you see competition can help you rise. And here's the second part of it, is I was going to say, so you have that example, it brings awareness that you would have never thought, but also it, like Kyle says in the podcast, it makes you start saying, how do I differentiate myself from the pack? How do I enhance what I'm doing? I think so oftentimes people got into the short-term rental space with a camera and a 2-bedroom condo, and they were getting away with it, right? I unfortunately rented one or two of those places along the way, and we're like, oh, this was not a good idea. As compared to when I just went to Atlanta with my sister's family, we had 18 of us staying in a house over in Stone Mountain, Georgia. The place was amazing. It had like a climbing gym for the little kids. It had a hot tub for the big kids. It had two big, large living rooms for the adults, as well as an outdoor porch that my mom, my stepmom, and my sister could go out and have coffee on and get away from all the chaos. That person created amenities. They upped their game. They gave something that was above what everyone else was doing. I think that that's better. That's going to create a market that is better for the consumer in the end. The reason why we have electronics now that can do 1,000 times more operating speed than the first computers ever created in a fraction of the size is because of competition.
100%.
Competition is a wonderful thing. This is a great interview, but I hope you will stick past a little bit of what we said, but also you need to up your game by being in mentorships, being in masterminds. Kyle, at the very end, love him. He did not tell you that he has a mentorship that you can get involved in. If you go to info@fearlesskyle.com and put subject line Wealth Without Wall Street, you can ask him about the mentorship that they run for their short-term rental operators. And if you put Wealth Without Wall Street in the subject line, you end up being a good fit. He's going to give you $500 off. So I'm going to make sure I say that, Stallion, at the very beginning. But let's don't take any more time away from this interview with our friend Kyle Stanley.
Welcome to the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast, your guide to understanding how to get out of the Wall Street rat race and start your own mailbox money lifestyle. Now, don't let these handsome Southern draws fool you. These financial minds are teaching our country to enhance savings, increase cash flow, and create passive income, all without the help of Wall Street. Are you ready to break through? Now here are your hosts, Russ Morgan and Joey Murray.
Wealth Without Wall Street tribe, he's back. You love him. Mr. Kyle Stanley's in the house. Kyle, so glad to have you, man.
Joey, Russ, always a pleasure, guys.
Yeah, thank you for jumping back on with us. For those who have not had a chance to listen to the first episode, I would highly encourage you to go back, listen to how Kyle built an amazing short-term rental business. We've had many opportunities over the last 18 months to spend in conversations one-on-one with Kyle. He is the real deal when it comes to the short-term rental game. If you're already running a short-term rental business, today is going to be exciting because he's going to show you how to accelerate in a declining opportunity here. Is that a good way to say that, Kyle?
Oh, I don't know if it's a declining opportunity. It's a more competitive opportunity. We'll put it that way.
All right. Well, reason I say that, I like to give a little bit of context, right? Like we're seeing opportunity within this market space increasing, but in certain areas because so many people are coming in, right? So for those who don't know your history, though, don't know the background, talk a little bit about where you started as compared to where you are right now.
Yeah, where we started back in 2015, I hosted my first room on Airbnb. That's all I ever saw of it for about 3 years. And then found out that you can do it just like how you guys found out you can do it without owning the house, and was like, wait a second, what do you mean I can do this without owning the house and don't have to show the deed? So I found out about the arbitrage model, got started in that, got to 6 properties pretty quickly. And then there was a need in my market in Central California where all these people who owned houses and were frustrated with the $200 they were making as a long-term rental, saying, hey, what if we furnished it? And what if you took over the management? And thus co-hosting was really birthed out of that for me. And I was able to take over about 30 to 40 owners here in the Central Valley, take over their homes, manage it for them, a glorified version of property management, essentially what that is. And we've been able to build to now 65 plus properties, most of which I'd say about 50 are of the co-hosting variety. So we still, on those properties make close to about $1,000 on each property that we co-host. And so you can do the math there. It's been a very fruitful business.
So really quickly, for those who don't know the difference, arbitrage is what?
Arbitrage, you lease it and then you sublease it. So I go to the landlord, say, hey, I'll rent this from you. I'll give you your guaranteed rent. I'll furnish it. I'll take on all the expenses. I'll take on a lot of the risk with the guest. And I'll just make whatever profit is left over. So if I have a rent of $2,000, some expenses of $500, but I rent it out for $5,000, I just netted $2,500 on a property that I don't own. Take that same, go ahead.
And all you bought, only thing you put up was the first month's rent and then the furnishings, correct?
Exactly. So I'm probably about $15,000 in if it's a typical 3 to 4 bedroom house. Perfect. So I make that $2,500, and before I know it, I've made all my money back right around, call that month 6. That's a dang good return on investment. But if you want an infinite return on investment, that's what co-hosting is. So I take that same property, I convince the landlord to furnish it themselves, and that I'm going to say, hey, that long-term rental that you might be netting $100, $200, maybe $500, I want to 3x that. I want to make you $1,500 per month instead of that $500 per month. All you need to do is furnish it yourself. I'll help you with that setup. I'll help you do that. And then day to day, I'll take over all of the operations, and I'm going to charge you 20 to 25% of whatever I bring in for that property. So if I'm charging 20% and I make that person $5,000, I just took the first $1,000 right off the top as my management fee.
So you just said some pretty amazing things. If this is the first time you've heard about short-term rentals, Kyle just gave you 2 paths to making dollars, right? One, being the person that goes out, negotiates the lease, gets the property furnished, and then starts being the hospitality business on the back end, making sure everything's done. Or number 2, co-hosting, being the property management for other investors' properties. They've done all the work on the front end of getting that, furnished, the cost of acquisition of the property, whatever it may be. And now you're just managing that hospitality business. So tell me this, Kyle, from your experience, is there one person that's better suited for one or the other of those 2 things? Or are they just so closely aligned that it's really the same person?
When you say the person, you mean the client, the homeowner?
Yeah, well, no, just like if I'm listening to you, okay, and I'm interested in this space, is there a way that you've seen, hey, this kind of person is super successful as being the investor side, or this person is super successful actually managing property themselves?
Yeah, I think it really just comes down to what kind of business model do you want? Do you want one where you have some expenses and maybe you've got some capital set aside, you're okay with some overhead, maybe you've already run some businesses, so you're really good with your financials and your statements, and you feel comfortable with saying, hey, I know I can evaluate these arbitrage deals and decide if I'm going to make enough money after paying the rents, after paying expenses, after paying my team. If you're good with numbers and you've got some business background, I think arbitrage is a great place to grow your business. Whereas on the other side, if you're kind of new and you're not used to taking on risk, co-hosting is really good because you're not taking on very much risk. But here's the key thing is that if I were to go to you, Joey, for example, if you owned a house, you're likely to co-host with me if I already have a little bit of experience, right? If I come to you and say, hey, I don't have any experience, will you let me take over your house? No, by the way, I need you to spend $20,000 to furnish it. You're probably gonna be like, well, show me where the ROI is. Like, show me what I'm gonna actually make. And all I'm gonna say is, this is my best guess, right? Probably not gonna go with that person, right? So
no, that's not what they're gonna say, Kyle. They're gonna be like, I listened to the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast, and Kyle Stanley said that there's a lot of return on this.
Exactly. So if they're familiar with that, right? But it still comes down to who the operator is. And so if you can come in and you can say, hey, I'm going to give you your guaranteed rent. You don't have to worry about the risk of losing money because you're going to get all the money. I'll furnish it myself. I'm going to run it as a business myself. And because you're working with me, a business owner, you're going to get rents that are direct deposited. You're going to not have to worry about squatters, all these things, all these benefits, right? We could go on for days of the benefits. But what that does is that builds up my portfolio and it builds up my experience to then say, hey, Joey, now I've operated 5 properties and now I have actual data and experience. And now I can show you what I believe you're going to make based on my actual knowledge and experience. That was how I built my business. And that's how a lot of people will get into co-hosting. Most of the time, it's going to go that route. Sometimes if you have an aunt or a cousin or, a really good friend that says, I want to get into this with you, then you might be able to co-host with them at that point because they know you more as a person rather than worrying about your experience. But most of the time you need to build up that experience first.
All right, I'm going to throw out this really quickly. One, if you're someone who has not started in this space, I'm going to send you to a course that can get you the first property with all the details of how to do it. Go to whatwallstreet.com/STR course. STR stands for short-term rental, Joey. STR course. So, but I want to dive a little bit deeper, right? Because I believe the value of taking Kyle for the second time is to pick his brain at a much higher level. You are mentoring people who have been running these businesses, teaching them not only how to take one to go to many, but then to do the co-hosting and all of that. So that's where I want to spend some time. I opened this maybe the incorrect way. Joey always says I'm awkward when I start the podcast off. I was awkward. Maybe my question should have been.
It's a gift, Kyle. It really is.
Maybe my question should have been, is this a bad time to be in the short-term rental business?
I don't think that there is a bad time to get into short-term rentals due to the fact that, if we look at this today, it's a much different business. We can't jump in today and just put in grandma's furniture and say, cool, now I can go make money on the stuff that's been collecting dust in my garage for the last few years. We have to spend the money to get the nicest stuff, to be the nicest place in your area. We have to understand our avatar a little bit more, right? If I'm in a place, and we can dive a little bit deeper into this too, but if I'm in a place that is going to be, in a lake area and I'm not within throwing distance of the lake, is that truly going to serve the client that I'm trying to serve, right? Those are the questions that we have to ask ourselves more than ever. And the people who are asking themselves those questions and doing the right things when it comes to those questions and comes to those answers and actually producing the best quality product, they're not seeing any sort of impact. They're competing against the minimum, whereas everyone else is competing against the average. And so I think if you're ready to get into a business that is going to produce amazing amounts of cash flow, but knowing that you can't it's not as easy as it was 3 years ago. Anyone can make money in any market, right? When we talk about real estate, it just comes down to, are you willing to look at things differently than the competition?
Well, you're competing against the pros, right? You're competing against the Kyle Stanleys of the world that are doing this full time, where most of those people that you mentioned are like, oh, I have a house at the mountains, I have a house at the beach or lake or whatever. I'll get one, I'll rent one, and I'll just rent it. And thinking that you're going to be able to do it at a level in which someone who's focusing 100% of their attention versus 1% of their attention. For the expert, for the person, or not the expert, but for the person who is not a beginner, they have 1 unit, they have 3 units, but there are feeling the pressures of an increasing number of listings out there, right? There's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of people in the space. We used to say everybody with a truck and a trailer was a landscaper, right? I feel like now everybody with an iPhone and a 2-bedroom condo downtown is a short-term rental operator.
Yep.
How are you coaching and mentoring people who have been doing it maybe for a year, 18 months, who have 1 unit, maybe up to 3 units? How are you helping them rise above the 2-bedroom unit and an iPhone user out there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll give you a real perfect example. So first of all, I've got a student right now. He started in February of 2022. It's now August 2022. He has collected over $800,000 on Airbnb since he started. He has over 50 units now. And the guy right from the get-go said, how can I get the best property in the best area that will have the highest performance? So we identified that straight from the get-go for someone that didn't have any properties. But to your question, there's a lot of people, like you said, that come in that they're like, hey, I've got 3 properties. They're not really performing that great. And if I'm going to grow this, I need to figure out why. One of our students, his name is Dan. He just jumped in with us. He's in wine country in California. And, it was no question of why his places were not performing well. You know, you look at some of these places and it literally was just, again, grandma's furniture, and it was cell phone photos, and it was, you know, not having, you know, if you're in wine country, like you start to think about it, location is huge, right? We want to be close to the wineries. We want to have some nicer end furniture. We have to give them an experience that they're going to enjoy beyond just putting a place up. So when we looked at it, you know, we noticed that a lot of this was just, we could, aside from just looking at location, you couldn't tell that there was going to be that kind of experience of being in wine country. You couldn't tell that he had really like put that final touch on it to make it the full experience, from not having a hot tub or not having a barbecue or not having the artwork or the colors that pop to make it really feel like you're in wine country. It was just, we're going to take the furniture that makes the most sense because of budget, and we're going to put it in there and we're going to see what happens. Those are the ones that need, like, to me, and the way that we do that too, guys, just so you know, the way that we do that is we just jump in and we start to look at what is the competition doing and how can you rise above the competition. So when you start looking at AirDNA and Airbnb, and you're looking at the neighbor down the street who has the professional photo that has the barbecue and the pool and the hot tub, meanwhile you're over here with cell phone photos and not having any of those amenities and wondering why you're not getting the same results. Well, we just identified those things. Now we can start to adjust, and we can't add a pool, but we can sure add a hot tub. We can't, you know, add location, but we can draw them into coming to our place that's 20 minutes out of the way, because we have the things that those other places don't have. So the further away from the prime location that we are, the more that we have to really focus on what's going to be so awesome for someone's stay that they'll say, I don't mind making that extra 20-minute drive. I'm going to go to this place and I want to stay there.
Russ, I remember my dad specifically say to me, Joey, you gotta go to college. I don't want you to end up like me. And you know what my dad was saying is, in order for things to change, things have to change. You can't end up just like me.
Well, I think, I mean, we as parents, sometimes we take on the burden thinking about our kids and how we want something better for them. And we want to know, what will their future look like if I don't take action, if I don't do something different?
See, in my house, I'm the role model. You're your kid's role model. And the buck stops with you. It's time to take action. If you're ready to take action, join us at wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/passport and get started on your own journey to financial freedom.
All right, let's jump back into this episode.
So you just mentioned a couple of different people that you've been able to mentor. Talk about that process, because obviously you're able to come, it sounds like you're able to come in and identify problem areas and or help somebody start from scratch. You just mentioned those two things. What other things do you kind of cover in the mentorship?
Yeah, I mean, I really like to call it a mastermind, because you're not just getting me, you're getting all of our coaches that are in there. We have high level coaches, some of them as well, making 7 figures, just like myself. And really what we're doing is we're identifying, where are you at in the process? What do we need to identify as the action items for the next 90 days? And then how can we give you the best continued education so that you're refining those things for the next year and beyond? So they're getting market evaluations right out of the gate. They're getting one-on-one training. They're getting to be a part of the mastermind and exchange ideas with other members. They're getting to learn from other coaches as we have weekly calls that they're learning specific things. For example, one of our coaches is my wife. She is our interior design coach, and she's killing it from the interior design standpoint and showing people how, you know, some small things can make a big difference. And so you get to jump on calls like that, whether it's interior design or sales or expansion, automation, adding extra streams of revenue. It's continued education like that, but it's really in the first 90 days, we're trying to identify and get hands-on with them and see, hey, where are you at? Where do you want to be? And how can we take those steps in the first 90 days to get you onto that path?
Most of the people who come in to your mastermind, how long have they been doing short-term rental?
Most of them are brand new.
Oh, really?
Yeah, most of them are brand new. We do have a select few, I would say, 1 out of every 5 has like a property or two. Most of the time, what we really want to do is we want to get you to 6 figures net as quickly as possible. So that's what we kind of promote. I do have another mastermind that is done with other really high level coaches that we don't talk about as much, but those people that come in with, call it 10, 15 properties that are like, I need to get to the next level. Now we're able to talk to them about our next mastermind. That's a little bit more high level conversations.
What is the thing right now that you're seeing that is the real issue in the industry? Like, and this is something that came up in a conversation with our short-term rental operator. I don't know if this is the thing that is dominating the conversation for you, is that recently Airbnb did an update, right? They changed their algorithm. It changed the way the units were being listed and the order in which they were being listed. Mm-hmm. The, whether or not you have a pool, whether or not you have waterfront, all that stuff got thrown off. Are you guys seeing that? And if that's not the big conversation, what are some of the other big conversations that you guys are talking about?
Yeah, it's kind of a 3-headed monster. This all kind of happened right around the same time. So first of all, I think the biggest shift was seen right around that time, but I don't buy into it being just the algorithm of Airbnb, because if someone wants to stay at a place bad enough, they're gonna find your place. So one, competition, just from now compared to right around, let's say July of 2020, that's when everyone kind of started to see, hey, Airbnb is kind of coming back. This whole arbitrage thing that people have been talking about is starting to get a little bit more popular again. And I think between July of 2020 until about March of 2022, there was this just mass growth in the Airbnb space. You guys and I were talking about it. Your market is really similar to ours. Both of our markets about 2 years ago were at 200 to 300 rentals. Now they're at like 800. So we have competition. We have Airbnb changing up their website a little bit, which I think is the least of the concern. And then lastly is just, look at gas prices, look at plane prices, look at all of these things that impact travel. And the fact that, the talk, the media talk, especially of inflation and recession, is dominating a lot of the conversations. And all of this really kind of came to a peak right around the same time in March of 2022. And that's when we started to see some things go down a little bit. But I will tell you this, I just did a study of this. We have 3 places this last month that just completely still blew it out of the water. And it's because of the same things that we just talked about right now. When you can be one of the top 5 to 10% in your market, you're really not competing with your market. But if you find yourself being that typical 3-bedroom, 2-bath, with the furniture and some nice wall art, and that's all you're doing, then you're competing with everyone else. And if you've got thousands of Airbnbs in your market, would you rather compete with 90% of thousands or 10% of thousands? Like that's the biggest difference to me, is that most people, and most of those people to me as well, they're going to exit the market as quickly as they came in. I think they're going to leave.
Well, and it just goes back to even just real estate in general, right? Yeah. Over the last 3 years, if you put up a shack on the market, it didn't matter. It was sold in 7 days or less, because it was just this craze in the market. Yep. Now things are not nearly as crazy. And so you have to be tip-top shape. You have to have all the things people are looking for. There's still a lot of buyers out there. They're just not like crazy like they were 2 years ago.
Well, Joey, how many people do you know that became realtors in the last 2 years, right?
Oh,
everyone and their mom.
Tons of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And meanwhile, the people who are selling and call it 30, 40, 50 homes per year and have been doing that for the last 10 years, they're feeling it, right? They felt it right now because there's more realtors with less inventory and lower prices. But all of those realtors that just became realtors in the last 2 years are going to go and create some other sort of income and get some job and exit the real estate space. And it's going to correct itself again to where the people who are the serious realtors are going to be the ones getting rewarded, So I just think no matter what business, we're always going to see people like that. So the biggest thing that I always say to people right now is you have to have a bulldog mentality getting into this business right now of, I don't care where it is. I don't care how it's done. I know that my reason for getting into it right now way exceeds any pain, any rejection, any disappointment that I'm going to get, because I need to do this thing. Like it's got to be a need at this point to me. If you just want to do it and you want to see how it goes and you want to put up a place and make an extra couple $1,000s, you're going to be gone as soon as you come in. So if you have that drive and desire, you can be successful with this.
Yeah, I think we're definitely, there's a Bible reference here somewhere, right? I mean, we're dealing with the parable of the seed, where that we're at a point right now, it is going to be tough ground. And a lot of people are just going to bounce and be gone. They may have experienced some quick growth over the last year. And as you said, we're seeing more listings, more competition, and the new person getting into the space is not trying to compete in that area. Like you said, 3, 4, 5, 6 bedroom houses. They're in the 1 and 2 bedroom unit spaces. Yeah. And if you look at the listings, that's where 85% of the listings are at 2 bedroom and below. Yeah. What were you going to say, Stallion?
Well, I was just going to say this to our tribe. As you're hearing this conversation and you've been wondering, like, man, maybe I am really suited well to start my passive income journey through short-term rentals. Now I'm kind of hesitant. Don't hear us saying that, right? If you've gone through the process that we teach on this show all the time, right? Who are you as an investor? If you have taken our investor DNA profile and you determine, man, short-term rentals is actually a really good fit for me, then it's just a matter of how serious, as just Kyle just mentioned, how serious is my why? Like, how badly do I want financial freedom? If it's just like man, I hope this works out, don't try to get into this at this point. But if you're serious about it, be educated, right? We already shared with you the course that you can start with, and then get a mentor. Right? If it's not Kyle, it's somebody, but get into some sort of a community that's going to push you when those things do get difficult, because you're a business owner now, and you have to be willing to put in the reps and have the support system. So anything you'd add to that, Kyle?
Well, I mean, I'll just give you 2 stories on that. We've got one of our students who he joined us in December of 2020. And, he jumped in, and this was at a time when it was starting to get popular. The guy had no sales experience. In fact, he's an engineer, 3 hours away from the market that he chose. And his partner, who's going to do a lot of the sales of it, is a former casino dealer. So like, neither of these guys have any hospitality experience, no real estate experience, no sales experience, no management experience, nothing. But the guy driving the car, steering the wheel on the boat, he said, I've got a family, I've got a kid right now, and I want to have more kids. And I'm putting in 50 hours a week at my job at PG&E here in California. And I barely even see my kid. And we just had her, 5-6 months ago. And so he's like, I need to be a stay-at-home dad. Those were his words. I need to be a stay-at-home dad. And for that reason, I was like, yeah, I mean, it's no surprise to me why this guy got so much rejection, but still to this day, he's now pushing 20 units. He's about 3 to 4 months away from quitting his job. And it's been because he had that strong why. On the other side of things, there's a lot of people that jump in, like you said, that just say, hey, I've got one and it's not really performing that well. I'd like to see it perform better. Maybe I'll grow to 5 units. And for that reason, they haven't added anything in 6 months. There's no wonder of why those 2 different people have not had the success. It all comes down to how badly they want it.
Well, and one of the things that we see this in all walks, right, is that you learn along the process. You learn how to enhance your business as you're in the business, and you grow repeat customers, right? When you get into the business, 100% of your business is dependent on sites like Airbnb.
Yeah.
But as you grow the business, then your business starts to get traction on repeat customers. You start get direct bookings, right? You have that organic reach. There's the value, right? I think that when, I love bringing up the controversy up at the beginning, because I want to help people not try to take the easy button. Wall Street is the easy button. This is not an easy button. Mm-hmm. It's work, right? I mean, passive income is not passive, right? We have to be involved, and then we can create passivity after we build processes and systems. So
Yes.
the thing that you're talking about is that there are ways as we build a business, we build repeat customers, we build a list, we can reach out to them, we can create Facebook groups, we can create, referrals just within our own influence and network. But as you do that and you scale, you got to get around other people who are pivoting. Because right now, I'd imagine some of the conversations that you're having in your mastermind group are around that, around how are we pivoting in a more competitive environment than we were 12 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, I literally just did a video on this on, essentially it's called 5 Steps on How to Run a Successful Business. And it's the ways in which I learned it through all my failures in changing careers and failed businesses is, we get so much into action that we forget to take a moment to step back, sharpen the axe, look at what are we doing that isn't sustainable or isn't going to perform a year from now, and how do we get on top of that now? So 3 months ago, we started a new initiative to try to get more direct bookings, because what we saw was we started to see this trend of Airbnb bookings going down, rates going down a little bit. So we said, okay, we want to get better properties so that we can be in the top 10%. We want to get more direct bookings. How can we create more relationships? And then we implement that. So it's about taking those moments of saying, okay, we need to recognize the trends. We need to game plan around those trends, and then we need to take action. So I'm happy to say that we've 5x'd in the last 3 months the amount of direct bookings that we've been doing just by putting some time and effort into that. We're nowhere near where we want to be on that, but it's the step in the right direction.
Oh man, Kyle, I love what you're saying. You're literally treating it like a business, and that's what it really takes to be successful, no matter what your passive income journey looks like. And so I appreciate you bringing that to us. I'm excited to have brought you back on the show to see your personal growth, right? The last time you were here, you had 20 to 25 properties, and now you've mentioned almost 70 properties in the course of a couple of years. I mean, has it even been 2 years since you were on? And that's an amazing feat in and of itself. And then the fact that now you're mentoring people along that same path. What's next for you as it relates to your own journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really get a lot of thrill out of seeing others succeed and being part of that success. So I've been doing a little bit more, if you want to call it venture capitalists or partnering with people. I'm looking to kind of partner in some businesses with people that I know have a really good expertise and can do the things that I can't do, but don't necessarily have the business knowledge. And I want to jump in and kind of help guide them to be able to get to that next level, and essentially almost be like you can call me kind of like a passive partner who helps with just kind of implementing things on the front end. So I've really found a joy in doing some of that. So I'm excited about doing a little bit more of that, but really it's about solidifying things in my current businesses so that my team is taken care of. I'm a huge proponent of leadership and your team, and you're only as good as your team is. And my team, my COO, my right-hand woman in my Airbnb and short-term rentals business, she came in, it was May of 2019, saying all she wanted to do was make her car payment $600 a month. And I gave her enough cleaning jobs to do that. And now last month, we paid her $9,200. And now she is, really the sole provider of her household. And she is doing this at a level that she's motivated, she's excited. It's something that she's really taken ownership of. And I want to make sure that she has a place here to be able to make that kind of income for the rest of her life, if possible. And so those are the things that I'm looking at right now, is how do we now protect this house that we've built? I guess is kind of the best way to put that.
That's so cool. And all right, tribe, if you want to follow Kyle, you can do that in a couple of ways. One, you can go to Facebook, type in Airbnb Masterminds, and join his Facebook group. You'd be one of about 140,000 people, because Kyle is running an amazing business. But also, Kyle, if somebody was wanting to get into your mentorship, is there a way for them to do that? And if so, how would they?
Yeah. And I'll just throw on to that too, Russ. if you guys do want to just kind of be in the information stage, right? Just digesting information. I've got a free YouTube channel, podcast, and Instagram. You can find all those by just searching Fearless Kyle. That's a simple Google search to be able to find all that. But, the difference between free and mentorship is the difference of information versus instruction, right? It's the information, and then you take that information and transcribe it how you think that's best for you, versus having someone say, okay, here's the information, here's what you do with it, here's the next step for you. You're going to start here, then you're going to go here, and then you're going to go here. It's the step by step, and that's what we're providing through our mentorship program. And just as a thank you to your Wealth Without Wall Street tribe for listening in to the very end here, we're going to give you $500 off that if you just email me, info@fearlesskyle.com, info@fearlesskyle.com. Just put the subject line Wealth Without Wall Street, and we'll start a conversation if it ends up being a good fit on both sides, which, by the way, that is a key thing, right? Like, we don't like just taking people's money and saying, whatever, good luck. We really want to see you guys succeed, and we want to take on the people who are going to be in the position to best succeed. So, and especially with being in a mastermind, again, you're only as good as the weakest link. So we want to make sure that you're serious, that you're coming in and you have a strong reason why, that you've got a positive attitude, and that you're ready to not just learn, but provide value to the group as well. So that would be the next steps.
Awesome. Kyle, as I mentioned before, I'm so grateful to have you on the show. Thank you for making time for us. And tribe, thank you for listening in. As always, if you found value today and you want to share this with somebody else who may be stuck, please do that. Please like it. Please share it. Please rate and review us so that we can get by the big algorithms and continue to share hope for financial freedom with everybody that wants to find it. Thanks as always. We'll catch you on the next episode.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand, so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.